Good evening, everybody. I gotta find a time to make that new intro. I'm Angela, aka Mr. Mallard, and this is Bud Copeland. As always, this Bud's for you because I just hate coming on in the silence like that. That drives me absolutely insane. But everybody wants to get paid for the little jingles they make nowadays, so it's a shame. But big weekend. Big weekend we just went through in the golf world. I know Bud had himself not just a weekend, he had himself a week. But before we get into all the golf, first of all, happy Father's Day. 2 days after, but happy Father's Day, Bud. I hope you had a grand old time.
Yeah, it was wonderful. First one without my dad. He died on Memorial Day. Thanks for bringing it up. I kid.
I know. I was going to get there, but
he did. So anyway, it's been one. I will say his departure was perfectly timed because I had this big trip going. Father's Day was right around the corner once again, and I think kind of it was his way of just being like, all right, this is perfect. I'm going to go watch the US Open with your mom. So, Pops, love you, miss you. He's the reason I love golf. So, like many other folks, but you are right. It has been a whirlwind of a tour. We're going to go over a lot in the next hour. We will get to the Travelers because I think the PGA Tour screwed up here. I think they got a little greedy, and you already saw it with the Memorial going back to, I don't know if you heard this or not, they've already announced it's going back to its original time last year. It's going to be a week between the Memorial and the US Open. I think they're going to do that again with whatever signature event they plot behind the US Open. I think the cat's out of the bag. It's like, okay, cool. Everything can slow down now. We don't need to be bam, bam, bam. Especially
this feels like a lot. These three in a row. These three in a row feels like a lot.
Yeah, and especially with how things shook out with Bryson. I don't, again, we'll get into more of that later. But first and foremost, congratulations, Celtics hanging the 18th banner in the Garden here, breaking the tie with the Lakers. Huge news here in New England. As a born-again New Englander and a resident C's fan, I'm what I call a postseason Celtics fan. If they're in it, I'm all in. But during the regular season,
I wasn't even all in the postseason. I just paid attention to the scores. I knew what was going on.
Oh, I love it.
But I just wasn't into it enough, unfortunately, just in basketball in general.
I can't watch regular season basketball to save my life. It's just it's kind of like it's become like baseball to me now, where I used to care. I used to care a lot more, but call me in September. In the meantime, pretty cool scene. The parade's going to be Friday at 11 in case you missed it. But before that, your boy on Thursday, we're in the middle of this heat wave here in New England, and it's going to peak out on Thursday. Your boy has his USAM or his Mass Am qualifier on Thursday. Yeah. Guess what time I go off?
You must go off at like noon.
12:40. I go off at the absolute hottest part of the day. The heat index is brutal. The heat index, like in your backyard, is out there in Worcester. It's supposed to be 101. The golf course can be $110 easy. So I'm giving this a lot. I've given this a lot of thought. I'm going to walk. I'm definitely going to walk. I'm going to use my push cart. I'm going to walk. I'm going to have an umbrella, and like a little handheld fan, because it's just me and another dude. They send you out in threes, but people drop, and I guess somebody in our group dropped. So it's just me and another dude. And cart sounds like everybody's like, oh, it's gonna be hot. You want to be in a cart? I don't want to be sitting next to somebody else with these long pauses and in between shots and in between holes. I need to be in my own space, in my own head. And I think it's worth the trade-off to walk this golf course. Never been out there. Green Hill Golf Course out in Worcester. Buddy of mine, his brother had worked in golf courses forever, said it's one of the better public courses, especially in the central part of the state. So stay tuned for updates next week on Bud's quest for the qualifier. But yeah, it's gonna be hotter than shit. I will say last week, perfect kind of warm up though, because I also believe that because of my Florida blood, my cracker heritage down there, that this morning I was out on the range at Delicio. It was about already 80 degrees at 10 o'clock, and it felt fine. The guys around me were just bitching, and I'm like, that could also play in my favor. There are gonna be guys who just absolutely can't wrap their head around the fact that it's 120 degrees, and they don't. What do they do? What do they do? I'll tell you what you do. You drink a metric fuck ton of water. You do those electrolyte packets. You eat, and then you just you got to just try to stay cool somehow. So stay tuned for more on that. riveting
I've
stuff.
never had those electrolyte packets. Are they good? Like, what are they like? Is it like a gel kind of thing? Is that what it is?
Ask Ben Chappell. Ben Chappell was the third in our little trio here down in North Carolina, and Ben is here from England. And so
Okay.
last week when you were seeing on Friday on that second round, we were there Thursday, and it was abysmally hot down in some of those spots, but it was also kind of breezy, and you get some shade. But for a guy like Ben, if you're not used to this, it's painful. It's hard.
Yeah.
So I introduced him to these things, and and they did help. I mean, at the end of the day, nothing can beat it. You know, you have to go inside.
You still feel like you're walking into a wall with every step. That's how heavy the heat feels.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't get super humid, you know, everything you can deal with just about anything. But I don't know. I'm really I'm actually really excited about this one. I'm a little nervous, but nervous because I played well enough last week on tough enough courses to convince myself that you know, the game is there. It's all upstairs. And shout out to my boy Christian, who put together our trip. And then, you know, he's a good old friend, and he's seen me play golf before, and he was watching me play this week, and he had some great words of advice and some criticism that I needed to hear. That I think is going to come in handy. But let's start with your opening thoughts, and then buckle up for story time with Uncle Bud as I take you through my time at the US Open.
Well, I mean, my opening thoughts are simple because your boy here finally hit the course this year. Yesterday, my face is still feeling a little hot. I mean, I speaking of the sun and the heat, it wasn't too hot. It was actually a perfect day for golf. It was like low 80s. There was a breeze. We were up on a hill. It was the place you and I played that one time up in Drake at Four Oaks. Yes,
that place is great. I want to go back there because I want another shot at that place.
Yeah, I love that course. It's great, and but it's a scramble format, so it's tough to really gauge your. Obviously, I'm not keeping score for myself, but I can tell you what, things felt good. And so the story was there was actually 5 of us in our group so my buddy, we had 2 groups of our friends, and unfortunately 3 of the guys couldn't make it last minute. So we just made the executive decision to just combine our carts, and we rolled out with 5 instead of a group of 3 and a group of 2. And we just had fun because we weren't really planning to post a score that mattered anyway. So the whole day was about having fun. We had a good time, but I'll tell you what, at least I had my drive dialed in. Like, I've never had it dialed in on a course before for the first 8-ish holes. Like, when I mean dialed in, I mean like shaped little draw going like 250 to 270 every time. It felt phenomenal. A little for a handful of holes after that, I kind of lost it a little bit, but then I got it back at the end, luckily. But there was a little window there. But what I was more happy with, sure, the drives I'm happy with. What I was happier with, thank you. What I was happier with, I only had 1 duff with my irons. I only topped a ball once with my irons, and that's something that is like the most frustrating part of the game for me is when I top a ball because I pull my head up out of it, because it's the most basic first thing you learn in golf, in baseball, and you keep your head on the ball, you keep your head down, whatever, you keep your head in it.
Keep your head still. Keep your head still. Look at Michelle. Actually, Ludwig Ober. I feel like it changes every fucking week, but look at Ludwig. You could put a glass of water on his head. But you're right. When well, I mean, I made some of those mistakes this week that I'll tell you about. You're right. It's the most frustrating shit in the world.
But that's so I was very happy with that. The fact that I was hitting those shots and, you know, getting them in the air. I was obviously, because it's the first time I played, my distances were a little off. I was having a hard time judging my distances. So there's a lot of coming up short of the green a little bit. But I put a couple on. So I was happy with it. Luckily, we had a guy putting lights out, so I think I putted a ball twice the whole day. Like, I barely used my putter because we had one guy who was basically not hitting a shot all day, and just getting out of the cart when we got to the green, and he'd sink the putt and we'd all walk off. It was fantastic. So yeah, had a good day, beautiful weather. The goal was achieved. We had fun with the boys. And that's that's what golf's all about for me. Just having fun. Like I try to be better. I try to post good scores for myself to show improvement, but at the end of the day, like I know I'm never getting any better than than playing on a public course and hoping to break 90.
Dude, I'll go in my backyard right now and hit chip shots for 4 hours straight. My goal in life is to touch a golf club and hit a golf ball every day until I die. So you're preaching. And there used to be back in the day, and in back in the day there was this aura. The movie Long Shots right now with Dennis Quaid and about the the Mexican American golf team in Texas. You should check it out. It's a true story, and it's kind of emblematic of what you were getting at. This former feeling around golf of exclusivity, as opposed to nowadays where it's like, dude, it doesn't matter what your purpose is. You don't all have to. It used to be, wait, you're always trying to get better. No, I'm just trying to get out. I'm just trying to make contact, or, I'm just trying to have fun, or I'm trying to participate, et cetera, et cetera. So that's good for you, man. I'm glad you got out there. And like, I like what you texted me, because it was such a golfer thing where you're like, hey, we played in a scramble, but I felt like that might've been like 88, 90 if I was on my own ball. I'm like, good. I'm like, it's always nice when you're grooved. And I had some of those throughout the week. But all right, so if you're with
the feel, like, you can recognize how your game feels, even if you're not keeping score. You can kind of get a sense of like, okay, like my body feels different today. It's not as, my swings aren't as chunky as they often are. Like, this feels good.
Chunky. Nice use of the word chunky. Nice use of the word chunky. It's no different than a baseball player who from the moment of contact, they get to a point where they can tell you where it went, how it went, the trajectory. They can just sit there and they're like crank, and they're like, nope, that's warning track. And you like look up, and sure enough. So I appreciated that about you. We're going to go through my trip. Well, then we will break down the US Open. There's a lot to chew on there. And hopefully we'll have some time to talk about TPC River Highlands and the newest addition to Boston Common Golf. Actually, let's start there real quick. I'm just going to say, because it's not worth chewing on more. Did you see the latest shakeup?
No, I didn't actually. What, you're catching me off guard with this one.
I'm glad I kept my mouth shut when we were following Tyrrell around, because Tyrrell Hatton out on Boston Common Golf. Come on down, Hideki Matsuyama. Classic Japanese frog. Don't know how that works out, but nationality has nothing to do with it. I like that he's on the team.
Obviously
Him and Adam Scott were a duo in the President's Cup, so I imagine they'll feed off one another pretty good. So anyway, woke up at 2:45 in the morning so I could make sure I could say hello to the internet at This Buds For You. If you're listening to this or watching this, go on over to Instagram, give your boy a like or a follow, both, whatever. I do my post, get to Logan Airport, park, flights at 6 a.m. And I was like dozing in and out of my I was trying to get 2.5 solid hours. I was like, if I can get 2 hours of sleep, I'll be great. There was a guy next to me. Elbows were a little loose. Feet were a little loose. He was a little loose, and it distracted me early in my game. So I dozed in and out and landed. My boy picked me up. I was tired as dog shit. We went straight to Tot Hill Farm and fresh out the gates on the Mike Strantz masterpiece. Now, I'll say this, Tot Hill Farm, it's no Tobacco Road. Tobacco Road's Tobacco Road. We'll get into that in a minute, but Tot Hill Farm was definitely an experience. Because it's built into kind of a housing community. And then it hit me. I found out a couple days later, this guy, Mike Strantz, built the course where I grew up, Golden Eagle. I was reading an article about him, about the courses that he had done on his own. He only did 7 courses before he died at 52. He did 7 courses on his own, but before that, he worked on 13 courses under Tom Fazio. Tom Fazio was the biggest name, in golf course design in the 80s and 90s for a while. He built the course where I grew up down in Tallahassee. However, he designed it. Sorry, he designed it, but it was Strantz was the builder and the chief architect on site who took the plans and actually shaped them in. So that was kind of one of those cool things that I was like, oh my God, that's an eye-opening connection to me and this guy, where I grew, like he built the course that shaped how I learned how to play golf. It was pretty cool. So on Monday, he slapped me around. I carded an 86. I was exhausted. I was no course management whatsoever. It was just, me and the boys were kind of geeking out over the design of this place, because the greens were magnificent. They're the shapes, the bowls. I'll say this, 86 had a lot to do with my course management and lack of, focus. The course itself is not too difficult. It takes discipline, and it's deceiving, because the way he uses elevation changes makes, 350 yards look like a $130, and then vice versa. Sometimes it's crazy. I don't know how to explain it. And then just, again, short par 3s, 145 yards. And then you think you stick it to 3 feet, and then you get down there and you're 15 feet away, and you're like, how did I? So the perception, it was very deceiving. 86 slapped me around, whatever. Wednesday, we wake up in the morning, about to say feeling like P. Diddy, but we can't sing that song anymore.
Yeah, don't actually, I said that. I heard that song came on the radio the other day, and I went, I'm surprised they're still playing this damn song.
Kesha did a live performance where she's like, woke up in the morning saying, fuck P. Diddy. I'm like, you need to re-record real quick.
Yeah.
So we go out to Longleaf, which is billed as like this family country club, and it was cool. It's the home of U.S. Junior Golf or whatever. They're hosting the U.S. Junior Worlds, and it wasn't the most difficult course. It was right in front of you. It was gettable. It just took straight shots. It really didn't even take that much discipline because it wasn't not too much blind stuff. And especially after going through something like Tot Hill Farm where you have blind shots and angles, this was just right in front of you, kind of resort style golf. Had two bad doubles and then a handful of 3 putts that led to a 79. Wasn't too thrilled. 78. Wasn't too thrilled by it. But at the whole time, my buddy and I are playing a Stableford, just head to head, 72 holes, adjusted Stableford. So that was the other thing too that led to some of the decisions where it was like after a double,
playing it differently.
So the mentality of the game, and he's like a 6 or 7. I was a 1 or a 2, depending on the course we were playing. So my quota was a little bit different. And so in case people who don't know how a Stableford like this works, let's say your handicap is a 0. That means you have to go out and get 36 points, 2 points per hole because you get 2 for a par, 1 for a bogey, 4 for a birdie, 8 for an eagle. At least that's how we were scoring it. So I was getting my ass handed to me, and I think I was down 7 points going into Tobacco Road Wednesday afternoon. Now we had the very first tee time out at Longleaf, and Longleaf was worth it. I would say if you're in Pinehurst, there's no dearth of opportunities. I had people chirping me online. Yeah, Tobacco Road's overrated. Give me Midland Pines and whatever, dude. You do you. There's golf for everybody there, but it was kind of romantic because we had the first tee time out at Longleaf, and then we had the last tee time out at Tobacco Road. So we go out to Tobacco Road, and this place is something straight out of it's worth the hype. And if you go online and you look it up and people talk about it, it's not that quirky. They just kind of have local rules that you follow, such as there are no bunkers. Everything is just waste area. It's kind of like Kiowa Island where they hosted, or Kiowa, the ocean course, they hosted the PGA because everything's built on sand. The waste areas are sandy. So, you can ground your club anywhere. It's fine. You can take practice swings in it. So that was kind of one of the little quirks. From a design element, it was a totally different beast than Tot Hill Farm because it was just nothing but blind shot after blind shot. And then like traps, one hole, short par 4, we're straight ahead. It's a 230-yard carry to this nice little bowl that gives you a 50-yard wedge shot up the hill. And you're thinking that's the play. And at first I'm like, no, it says, I should really just go out to the right, hit it about 200, and you're going to have like 110 in from a level pin high position. And instead I took the cheese. I almost cleared it, but instead it drifted a little bit to the right and I hit it about 240. And so now I had like a 56-yard uphill bunker shot. I did not pull a Bryson. I flared. I just told myself, get it up there. Like do not be back down here. And I went long and then I couldn't get up and down. These greens were like glass. They were the fastest things I had put it on since leaving the South and playing like Sawgrass and those courses. And so it took a little bit of adjusting, but not much. The good thing about fast greens is they roll true. So if you see a line and the minute you get a little bit of a feel for it, you can actually make some putts. And so I turned at 40 and I had won with my buddy the right to call back tees. He was like, fuck that. I'm not doing that from the back tees. And so the night before we had a putting contest at the Airbnb. I won. I said, come on back, Junior. You're playing in my course. So I turned in 40, which I wasn't thrilled with, but then again, the place was terrifying and it takes you a few minutes to get used to it. And then on the 10th hole, I hole out from pin high in the bunker. And I literally got down there and I was like, this looks actually makeable. And I said that out loud. And the kid from England was like, let's see it. And so I just blasted up there. It trickles down, jars it. My buddy just looks at me and shakes his head and just walks away. Next hole, par 5, birdie that. Your boy's feeling it. I had one stumble coming home. There's a hole online. You can look it up. And I hit the ball I flared a wedge over the green and it hit the road and then bounced off of a like goat fence or a cow pasture fence. And my buddy just goes, no, out of bounds. So I go up there, run up this hill, run across the street, and I'm like shooting my little gun down there, like 28 yards or whatever it is, just the back of the hill. Trucks are flying by. I'm like waiting for an opening, and I hit this big old like flop shot down there to about 10 feet and lipped out the putt. That would have been the best up and down of my life. But it was a really cool place. I ended up shooting 35 on the back for a total of 75, and it flipped our match because my boy struggled a little bit more than I did. And on the back nine. And so all of a sudden I took a 1-point lead going into the last round. We found just kind of a cheaper round, for Friday morning after 2 days at the US Open and all this golf. We played a place called Seven Lakes. It was worth the $75 we played because the greens were rolling and the tee boxes were nice and the fairways were kept. And we also went out pretty much first again. And we got paired with two guys who were like, hey, they were veterans, young vets. And they were like, we play ready golf. I hope you don't mind. We're like, please. So we were done. We were done in 3 hours and 45 minutes. And I had a flight to catch. So I went into the clubhouse, take a shower, and my buddy's sitting out there with all of our scorecards. He's like, I'm going to start from the beginning while you're showering and changing and count it all up. We'll see where we ended up. Cause we didn't keep track during the round. We agreed to that. Okay. We're like final round. Let's total our scores, but let's not actually, if you want to keep your score, whatever, we're not going to do the points till afterwards. I was like, sounds good. And you can kind of, and he does this all the time. I didn't really think much of it at the moment, but he plays in these all the time. So he's like, you get a feel after a while, like this is pretty fucking close. Like we knew it was 1 point going into that morning. So he's like, and we had just kind of hung around each other all day on the course. And so finally I come out and he starts kind of almost grilling me, but like, not like he didn't trust me, much more like he didn't trust himself. He's like, talk me through the back nine. All right. He's like, which hole was this? All right. What did you do? He's like, what did I do? And I'm like, I don't fucking know what you did. I was like, I try really hard not to pay attention to my own game. So I'm not trying to listen to I'm not trying to pay attention to what you did. I was like, we can talk through it together. So we did. We confirmed all the scores, and he just like sat down and he looked up and he like pushed it over to me. After 72 holes of Stableford, we tied.
Oh, that's awesome. That's fantastic.
100% tied. And I looked at him and I said, do you want to go putt for it? I was like, you want to go to the putting green and like have a putt off? And he's like, nope. I think Donald Ross is talking to us and he's saying, gentlemen, it's a draw. And so we dubbed it the first annual Crokies and Khakis Cup. He is Team Crokies. I am Team Khakis. Just a couple of frat boys from Tallahassee. Next year, we are going to be doing this again, 72 holes in New England, because we have a handful of courses around here that we've both been wanting to play. Some that I have, some that he hasn't. So look for that coming to you next year. That was the golf element of it. And again, I'm going to say it one more time, 40-35 at Tobacco Road. No, we weren't. We were hitting cups. So anybody who wants to be like, oh, I wonder how. I wasn't doing it for the ego. It was just a good day. And it gave me a little bit of confidence going into this week in this qualifier, just playing tough courses, with bets on the line and stuff like that. And some of the advice that he gave me that pointed out glaringly bad holes in my course management I'm very grateful to him. But the real stuff came Tuesday and Thursday, when we went out to the US Open. So Tuesday we went out for a practice round, got out there at like 8:30. Immediately, we took an Uber, took us 15 minutes from our Airbnb. We get dropped off. You go through the gate, and within 2 seconds, you're already on the fifth tee, watching people tee off. It was awesome. And we walk a few holes in the front nine. We get into the second grandstand, and we sit there on that second hole. And first thing I'll say is this. Everybody who you walked into, what do you think you'd shoot? What do you think you'd shoot? What do you think you'd shoot at Pinehurst? What do you think you'd shoot number 2? I'll tell you exactly what I would shoot on that golf course from the back tees, from where those guys were having to hit it and stuff. 150 million, about 150 million.
I'd stop keeping score after I wouldn't even start keeping score.
Those were, now I haven't been to Augusta in person, but those were some of the most brutally abusively shaped greens and pin positions, where there's one way and one way only to get a ball to stay on the green, let alone close. And go ahead.
I was just saying,
go there on the greens. Talk about it.
I forget who it was, but I saw one guy, he shot it. The thing couldn't have landed and stopped very briefly more than like 3 feet away from the hole. It was a perfect clean golf shot, and then it just starts trickling away and rolls completely off the green, like, 50 feet away. I'm like,
Take a number.
that's
That
evil.
was
It's evil, but I love it. But
oh,
I love it as a viewer, but it's evil.
it was so many people.
Yeah.
Happened to so many people. So we got there. We decided, all right, let's take care of business first. Hit the merch tent. That's where
Yep.
I'm wearing my Johnny O U.S. Open kind of pullover hoodie.
That's
This
where the
thing was
damage
dope.
is done.
Me, by the way, I got stopped a lot. I was flying the Acorn everywhere at Tobacco Road, Todd
Yeah.
Hill Farm, and at the U.S. Open. I was flying the Acorn, and I got stopped a lot. So hopefully, folks shouted out Nate at Acorn Hills. Whether or not you use my promo code TBFY15 for 15%
Oh,
off on
wow.
your car insurance. It was
Right at
cool
the bottom
because
there. Right at the
people were like,
bottom.
"Is that Woodmont? Is that Oakmont? Is it this? Is it that?" And then one guy from somewhere in Massachusetts, I got to look it up. It starts with a W. He was like, "Oh my God, that's blank." And I was like, "No." I was like, ironically enough, I live in Salem. And he told me,
Westerly,
and then
Waverly,
it,
Winston, I don't
it was
know.
like I think
Winchester.
it was like Westerly or Winchester. It was one of those two.
Yeah.
And he was like, Acorn is our logo, and we're like the oldest, golf course in Central Mass or Western or whatever it is. And then he looks at my buddy. He goes, "Hey, one of you's wearing a Grateful Dead hat. I saw. Anybody got any gummies?" And we're like, "No, my guy. Sorry, fresh out of the gummies. But you enjoy your U.S. Open, sir." So we hit the merch tent. I'm not going to say the number out loud, but I'm not proud, not
Sure.
ashamed, not
Yeah,
ashamed.
it's for you only. It's fine.
It was worth it. Now, the hat selection, I'll say my buddy Christian got the best hat. It didn't fit with me. It had a rope on it. And then so I saw this.
Oh,
And if
yeah, I'm not
anybody
a
doesn't
rope fan
know,
either.
no, neither is he. And I think he's going to cut it off. If you look up the 1996 U.S. Amateur with Tiger Woods, this is the style. That's why I ended up with this hat. There's a little take on that. He's got 2024 Pinehurst on the side, but he was wearing a hat in the final round. I'll never forget, because I remember Steve Scott. Shout out Steve Scott. He does wonderful stuff with announcing, and he's a PGA professional. He's the guy that Tiger beat in that 1996 U.S. Amateur, and he had a big old lead on Mr. Tiger Woods in the final round, and just trickled away. He tells that story wonderfully, graciously every year around U.S. Amateur time. But Tiger was wearing this hat that just stuck in my head forever. And when I saw this, it reminded me of that. So
It's exactly the same hat with the trophy added, basically.
right, the trophy. Instead of U.S. Amateur, it says U.S. Open. They threw the trophy on there.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really dope hat. Especially because I remember Steve Scott was wearing this Massimo hat. Massimo is a skate company from back in the 80s and 90s, and I thought that was kind of tacky. Looking back now, I think it's kind of cool. So we hit the merch tent, and then we decided we wanted to go scout places to see shots. Our whole goal was to come back on Thursday and be efficient, and just kind of, so we walked the course, almost the entire course. And the whole time just kind of munching and drinking and having a good time, talking to the people, spreading the love, divots and pivots, shouts.
There we go.
It was great. And so Thursday we wrap up. It was a wonderful day. We left at like maybe 3:45, 4 o'clock. We knew we were coming back, and so we walked down to Pinehurst Village, and we went to Pinehurst Brewing, had dinner, went back to the Airbnb, crashed. Did our big 36 hole day, and then on Thursday we went back. And we got there, similar route, and we just immediately basically picked up with Tiger. We were like, okay, first of all, we went back to that second grandstand. I got to see Stuart Hegstead make a fucking sick up and down from the bunker on 2.
Well,
day
so
one.
you were all excited about Hags there, and I know Millie Goats was too, because Millie Goats was down there, and he kept messaging me saying, "Oh, we got to follow Hags." He was all about Hags, so like.
Damn, I should have. I didn't see your message until later. The boys were down there.
I know. I sent it late.
You were like, "Yeah, hit up the Millie Goats if you're there." I'm like, "Dude, it is 7:30. I am exhausted. I'm drinking a non-alcoholic beer, and I'm a little high. I'm not gonna lie." I was like, "There's no way I'm not gonna meet up with anybody." So so we sit in that grandstand, because I was like, "Let me just see Stu Baby come through," and then honestly, we did a little bit of walking, and we're like, Tiger teed off on 10. So let's just catch him. Let's go position ourselves in the first grandstand. And then there was kind of a little hack my buddy figured out on the map, where the masses were going to be along one side of the fairway, and he noticed on the course map, he's like, dude, we can walk the entire front nine around this outer perimeter and watch Tiger. Never have to cross, no crowds, nothing. So we did just that. I was 10 feet away from Tiger Woods at points. You know, we were chirping Johnson Wagner and you know, we at one point. So at one point, so in the first round, Tiger Woods on his back nine, the front nine of Pinehurst, the only par five is number 5, and that was the gettable par 5. And Tiger had just come off a bogey on 4, and at that point, people were like, "What the fuck? Like, are we going to just watch this old man limp in?" And even on 5, his Fitzpatrick and Zalatoris just blast their drives, 20 yards, 15 yards past Tiger, and Tiger has to make a pit stop after the tee box, and so they had to wait anyways because there was a par 5 and it was kind of backed up. So we're all standing there chatting, and right in front of us, 5 feet away, is Dan Rappaport from Barstool. And he's sitting there on the ground, scrolling on his phone because he's following Tiger inside the ropes. And the group around where we're standing, just right next to Tiger's ball, I'd say about 15, 20 steps away. His ball is growing and growing and growing. And then all of a sudden, here he comes, big cat, humping up the hill, it's sweat covered and everything. And he's assessing, and he pulls out this iron, and we all see the iron that he has, and it has just a tiny bit of loft, not a ton. So we couldn't tell if it was a mid iron, long iron, but we all just assumed by the way he was pulling it out, we're like, oh, he's going to lay up and everything like that. And he makes these short practice swings, and then he makes contact, and it sounded different. It was kind of like, what? It was this crack, this like almost like a pop of a whip. Ball starts low, and then just like a fighter jet just takes off straight up and then just lands softly about 10, 15 feet short of the pin. The place is going absolutely nuts. And I almost jump across the rope, and I like scream in Rappaport's face, give the people what they want. And he's like giving us high fives and shit. He was a lot of fun to be with, but it was awesome. A moment, man. And being able to walk with him, because I always poo-pooed like the Tiger crowd. Like, I don't want to get mixed up in that shit. And here was an opportunity to do it a little bit differently, because we were not walking 5, 6, 7 deep. It was us on the ropes with the big cat, and he was putting on a little bit of a show. And again, I go back to that golf course because that was the morning, and then we stuck around for the afternoon wave. That was the Scotty Scheffler, Bryson DeChambeau show, and it was dope. I mean, at that place, the place was popping. It was 90 degrees. It was almost at capacity. I told you, your boy was barefoot. I wore flip-flops day 2, and as soon as we got in, took them off, and that was that. I wanted to be able to say that, and it was comfortable as hell. It was just like sand.
Your toes were in Pinehurst grass.
My toes were. I smuggled some sand home, and it's beautiful. Me and Bryson smuggled sand home. So that was my journey, though. We followed that crew around. It was, the Brit didn't make it past lunch. He had to hit the tent. Me and the other Florida guy stuck it out until about 5:30. And ironically enough, the last thing we did right before we were waiting for our Uber, and at the aforementioned 5th tee, right behind there's the entrance to the ride share, we waited. We watched Bryson tee off, and then we left. And so we got to see him. That was the last group we saw tee off before we left. I got a sick video. I got a sick video, bro.
Sick video, man.
No, but I got a good video of Bryson. One last quick, funny U.S. Open story, and then we'll talk to Underdog, and we can actually talk about the tournament proper.
Yes.
This on day 2. The reason we did the merch tent day 1 is because we didn't want to walk around with shit on day 2. But I did the same thing, bought it, shipped it home. But day 2, I went back and I wanted to get the hat that my buddy had. And at the last minute, pivoted, snagged this guy. So I was walking around with a bag the rest of the day. Towards the end of the day, we're watching, and I was standing behind my buddy Christian, and JT Poston backs off a ball, and he shoots the nastiest fucking look, like right at us. And I'm like, what the hell is this guy looking at? And then I realized he's looking at me. I was like crinkling my bag in my hand. And I like a little kid, I quietly scoop behind my buddy and just crawl down real low. Right. And so he hits and he moves on. Christian turns around. He's like, what the fuck was his deal? And I just went like this with my bag. He goes, oh my God, that was you. I was like, yeah. So when we were watching Bryson hit, Skip had 2 holes because we were walking the opposite direction. Skip had 2 holes. We're waiting for Bryson to hit. And as we're waiting for Bryson's group to like get ready, Poston and his group walk up, and I nudge my buddy. I'm like, hey, Christian, check it out. It's him. He looks at me, looks at my bag sitting on the ground, and just starts stomping on the bag. And I'm like, you motherfucker. Poston looks over and he just laughs and like shakes his head, keeps walking. I'm like, oh my God. World. So yeah,
but I'm sure like JT like appreciates like the acknowledgement of like you guys are none of the three of you guys said a word to each other, yet you had a whole conversation.
He knew that I was mortified. He knew that it was my fault the first time, and he knew that my buddy was busting my balls the second time. Let's hear from Underdog and then talk about actual golf.
Fantasy Sports Corp and Underdog Fantasy have teamed up to start your fantasy season off in the win column with Best Ball. What is Best Ball? It's quite simply the easiest way to win. No team management, no trades, no waivers. It's their biggest contest ever, and it has only gotten bigger. You simply have to sit and win. You don't even have to set your lineup. Always get your best score every week. Just enter a contest, draft your team, and Underdog will do the rest. What could make this even better? How about free money, up to $100 using our exclusive promo code? Go online now and use the promo code DIVPIV to double your deposit up to $100. You tell them Gingerbread sent you. Good girl.
Good girl, Gingerbread.
Yeah, good girl, Gingerbread. Speaking of crumpling bags, a guy who probably had to have quite a few bags to carry home all of his memorabilia, his winnings, and the trophy itself. Bryson, you know what? The champion that I think the U.S. Open needed this year. I'm going to say it. I don't care. He's live, whatever. Like that's kind of just getting to a point where it doesn't really honestly matter to me anymore. Bryson, I think with the year he's had, year and a half, in his own personal ventures, the social media, and the way he's just kind of adopted this attitude, Bryson felt like the champion that the U.S. Open needed, and probably honestly it wanted. Forget the lines drawn in the sand. This was perfect, I think.
Two things can be true at the same time. No, I'm not forgetting the lines drawn in the sand because he drew the line in the sand. He even said that in his press conference. That's the only beef I have with this whole fucking thing is don't say. You created the situation. You're healing the situation. Don't talk about it needing to be done. I hated that. He did so well in his press conference. He did so well all week with the fans. He did so well with just being and doing and playing. You don't have to answer every question that is given to you. And so when it got brought up and he was like, this is a time for us, yeah, we need to heal. We need to figure this out. And you can say that I'm part of the cause. I will. I'll say it. You're part of the cause. So don't go talking about us needing a solution. You know what I mean? You started the fire. So don't tell me we need to go find a hose. You're right. We do. If you wouldn't have started this fire, we wouldn't have been in this position in the first place. And selfishly, everybody's talking about how like Liv has been great for Bryson. So, okay. So are we all in this for Bryson? Or are we on this for golf? So hold on.
Yeah, go for it. Finish it.
So that one comment is the 0.1% of this week that I don't like. 99.9999999 repeating percent. I am so much happy. So much happier. Happier. I am so much happier about golf and its potential with what transpired. My buddy Christian was like, he called it at the beginning of the week. He goes, Bryson DeChambeau is winning this golf tournament. I was like, no, I think Brooksy's going to finally snap out of it. I'm over Brooksy. I'm moving on.
I almost had the Rory pick right too. I almost got it.
I'm sunsetting. Stick around with Rory. I think he is. I think he's right. We'll talk about him in a minute. But I think the whole story is cool, and he did it. He worked. Mm-hmm. He proved that you don't necessarily have to be. Now, Tiger says he had to do it his way, which was laser focused, no friends, no enemies, no mercy, whatever. It's just me versus the world. And he kind of he doesn't regret, but he misses the relationships that he could have developed had he not been doing it that way. Jack 118, while developing. So I mean, everybody has their own path.
Oh yeah.
Maybe Bryson is that next. Like, all right, I just have to be me. I can't worry about what everything else is. I'm going to be me. I'm going to do my thing, which is cool, and I appreciate that. Now, will this? We're caught up in the moment. We are such a right now. Give me more junkie. We have recency bias to a fault, and presentism is our weakness. Will this? I'm channeling my best Brandel Chambly. Will this U.S. Open be remembered as Bryson's triumph or Rory's failure?
I think it's gonna be Rory's failure. Just like Spieth at the Masters on what was that 16 or whatever. Like it's this certain moment.
Exactly. Danny Willett year. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. So like this is gonna go down as Rory's failure. I do want to go back because you made the comment. People are saying like Liv is the best thing that could have happened to Bryson. Like, no. From the two best things that it did for Bryson was two non-golf related things. The money, obviously, it's going to help his life, and the free time. That's where it was great for Bryson. Golf-wise, though, Bryson, quite frankly, has not had a great statistical live career on the golf course from start to finish. He's been doing better recently, but start to finish, since he's been there, it's been average. But as far as when he's been come over recently and played in the PGA events and the majors, he's looked fantastic here on the PGA major events. So Liv has been good for his life. I don't think it's necessarily been good for his golf.
I think though the reason it's been good for his golf is because it was good for his life, because he was in a low point after he broke his hand, and you know what I'm saying? Like he took this money thinking that it was going to be this exciting thing. Then he gets hurt, and then it's like, shit, what am I going to do with myself? And there's doubt. So it had afforded him the time where he didn't have to go back and grind. But I agree with you. I don't like saying it was good. That's almost like saying, you know, you got cancer, and then when they were removing the tumor, they also took another bone. So you got rich, but you'll never walk again. It's like, wait, what? Like, so are you saying there was a good thing because I ended up rich? Like, hold on a second. Bad analogy. Sorry to all the cancer people out there, including, you know, family. Anyway, the Bryson train is definitely on the I mean, it's humming, and I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's found his game and his sweet spot. The reason he's a cautionary tale and he's a unicorn, he's not the norm, as Brandel Chambly would say, this is not the future of golf. These are for the exception. This is not for the masses. Is he is talented enough that all he needs is this time to go and just keep his knives sharp and then show up 4 times a year, 5 times a year. I think he will be on the next Ryder Cup team. No problem. I do think the people out there saying, oh my God, this guy was passed up for, was he playing like this 6 months ago? And would he be not maker? Who knows? I mean, that's not fair to say.
But I remember us having the conversation around the Ryder Cup captain selection time, saying that Bryson was a definite no for us because of how he was playing. Like I remember, like it's you know, what's it called? 2020, whatever. Catch 22.
In the moment, I love what he's doing. I love what he contributed to the game. Great.
Yes.
And congratulations to him. That up and down is legendary. It is a 55-yard bunker shot. I guess on his live golf bio, it does say right there, what's your scariest shot? 60-yard bunker shot. It's like, me too. Yeah. It's not a 3-foot par putt. And then he just did it. He did it. I don't like he was like, these single length clubs come in handy. Again, Bryson, you're an exception. You can achieve the same thing with an 8-iron and opening it up that you did with your full length 56. So don't get me started about that either. Take the win. Love the moment. You know, he's doing the thing where he was hanging out at his rental house in the driveway, doing autographs with the neighbors. You know, enjoy all of it. You know, soak it in. You've earned it. You deserve it.
That.
And but I do think that at the end of the day, we're gonna what's gonna happen is he's gonna have these kind of not asterisks, but it's gonna be like, next to both of his US Opens, one at Winged Foot because the COVID thing, that show was just weird. When they were showing replays of that, I totally forgot how fucking weird that was, having like nobody there, and it's like that was a major championship. That was, you know, and after being at this one, it was you see the difference. This one is going to be very much kind of God, who won when John Van de Velde fell apart? It's like Paul Lowry won the Open Championship back in when Van de Velde took a triple on 18 to fall into a playoff. This is going to be a little bit like that. Rory misses 2 4-footers in the last 3 holes. A couple of questions for you about the Roars, because I was pulling for him. I really wanted this to happen.
So
I love the story.
Yeah, I was pulling for him too because I picked him to win, so I wanted to be right.
It had nothing to do with, you know, the PGA Tour live, or I thought it was kind of and by the way, I was there when they were chanting USA. There was really only once or twice that I thought it was kind of like you're just doing it at a weird time, not like in our. It was kind of cool because they you might not have heard it or seen it. There was plenty of European love and support, and Rory had no dearth. So that's why when I was like, man, the USA thing doesn't bother me.
Yeah, I'm honestly fine with the hype already starting for the next Ryder. Like whatever, if you want to carry those little chants every now and then, like I have no problem with it. But the timing part was the timing part was more of the issue, like not the issue, but the questioning part for me.
I told you, yeah, and there were a handful of times where I too was like, really, this is the moment we're going to get a USA chant going. But here's another question for you on the Roars. Yeah, we both agree that this is going to be remembered as the Rory. I'm not going to say, I hate saying choke, but the Rory,
but it was
failure. Ugh.
But it was a choke.
But it was so bad. But I'll tell you this too: those greens, scary as shit. I would have shot 150.
So sure,
but he still hit it. Let me ask you about his exit.
Okay.
Are you satisfied with how he left the US Open, how it all went down?
I understand how he left it. I would have liked to see him at least give the quick handshake, pat on the back, and then the quick walk off. Like that, I would have liked to have seen that, whether it's at the scoring tent or on the edge of the green, whatever. But I get it. He did come out with a statement afterwards, not flat out saying like he didn't say anything along the lines of like, I'm sorry I didn't stick around. Like, he didn't say anything that, but he started out a statement giving Bryson all the due. Like I was satisfied with the respect he gave Bryson and his statement afterwards, and expressing his own difficulty dealing with what happened, because what happened was ridiculously jarring for him. He had hit 496 straight putts within 3 feet up until 16. And then he misses 2 with it. Like that's gotta, especially a guy like him who is thinks through everything on the course and relates it to his life and whatnot. Like that's a lot. So I wish he would have stuck around. I would have stuck around if I was him, probably, and kind of gutted it out. But I'm not him, and I am, on the other hand, completely understand why he left the way he did. Where do you stand?
Yeah, bad luck. He owes the tournament and the game a little bit more. The heavy lieth the crown, or whatever the hell the saying is, but you owe it to him. I mean, $2 million check. Even if it is just to sit up there and say what you had plenty of time. Nobody's going to put a gun to your head and say you have to get out there right now. You can sit in the locker room, get with your team, talk to your wife, whoever you got to do to say like, I can't go out there, and they'll help you to go out there and say like, listen, Yang, I'm gutted. I'm just absolutely, this has been one of the most, exhausting stretches of golf. Obviously not the outcome I deserve. All credit to Bryson. He's a deserving champion, and I look forward to, future battles. But for now, I need to just go home and process this, and I'll see you all next week. Like I do think that that's the minimum. I don't like the precedent it sets, and the message it sends to, to young golfers, to future golfers, to aspiring professionals. This is the level that you are going to be expected to just at least face failure. Listen, I mean, on a very minuscule scale, Thursday, my score is going to be public out there. I'm going to play in the Massachusetts Amateur Qualifier, and Mass Golf, shout out to them. They do a really good job of publicizing those and kind of hyping them up on social media. So look out there on Thursday. They'll have a link to the live scoring, and so it is kind of cool. And for me, I'm getting excited about it, less nervous. And it's like, yeah, go time. You've played these kind of courses before. Let's go do it. Let's have fun. I can't imagine, if I like went to work and did this presentation, and, lost out to a competitor, and then having to go in front of everybody in my company and all of their friends and all their families. And they're like, so Bud, talk us through that last slide on the PowerPoint with the transition glitch there. Do you think that, after giving this 572, I'd be like, I don't know if I'd be mentally in a space to do that. Probably would be. I think I care more about golf than I do my job, but like most golfers. But yeah, it's tough, and it's tough to be self-righteous to say he owes us that or he owes that. But I mean, when you consider second place, $2 million, and this is runner-up. We're going to start calling him runner-up Rory here, because it's I will say this though, make fun of a guy for being runner-up at a major golf championship. Rory's a unicorn. Bryson's a unicorn. These are not the usuals, right? You look through history and you only have a handful of familiar names, and then every once in a while it's, who the fuck is Michael Campbell? Or, who is Paul Lowry? These people who just, Danny Willett, they jump out.
And golf could use a battling duo. Like, golf could use that. Like, I don't hate the idea of like two guys, whether it's Bryson and Rory, whether it's Rory, someone else, Scotty, whatever. Like, I don't mind the idea of like, not that it's just those two guys winning every tournament, because that gets boring too, but that when they are in the tournament, they're in it together, like at the top, and they're battling back and forth, like, or even if they're battling for 10th, like I feel like golf could use that rivalry.
I don't want just two though. That's the thing, is we already have that.
We have none right now.
What are you talking about?
None that are big enough.
Scotty Scheffler, Xander Schauffele, and Bryson DeChambeau were all. What do you mean you want a rivalry? You want just 2 or 3 people to dominate the top and go head to head?
No. I just want there to be these kind of grouping, like these I guess storylines is what I'm looking for between like two golfers at the different tournaments. I'm not, like I said, I'm not looking for the same two guys to be at the top of the leaderboard every week, but I'd like these like if just guys who are always like kind of finishing around each other down the stretch, whether it's fourth first or whether it's fourth, whatever, they're just always in the same mix together, and they just somehow get some juice behind it. Like, I think that would just bring some more, I guess, firepower to it all. Like, I just think back to like the early 2000s, 2000 2010, where we had, there were villains. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say. Does golf need villains again, like your Sergio Garcia or your Patrick Reed, and after that a little bit, or like all these other guys that people like enjoy?
No, they all getting mad at. Everybody you just named went to live, and for good reason. They were rotten for golf.
That's a fair point.
I think the future of the PGA Tour is bright with people like Ludwig Aubert and Michael Bjornsson, Akshay Bhatia, Robert McIntyre, who made the jump over from the DP World Tour.
Oh, the future's bright for sure.
And then you look at the top of the top, the signature event winners, Rory McIlroy, Scotty Scheffler, Xander Schauffele won a major. So what I hear you saying was this week was fun because we did have 2 of the biggest going head to head down the back 9. And that would be a dream every week in and week out.
It's not going to happen every week.
No, it's not. But I think the point that I like to make is, outside of the random science teacher who qualifies or the Monday qualifier who's in the final group, you look at the top of these leaderboards and you are getting that. These are world-class golfers and athletes. Sure. Xander Schauffele had, who was runner-up at the PGA? Was it Rory? Who was runner-up at the PGA championship? Why am I drawing a blank on this one? That was Bryson. And then you had Victor. And then you had Victor Hovland, Thomas Dietrich, Colin Morikawa, Justin Rose, Shane Lowry. So Bryson's the exception, not the rule. That's also like what I want to remind people is, okay, Bryson, you're saying we all need to come back together and yada, yada, yada. Cool. Are you bringing, Charles Howell III and Anna Baron Behir? Like, are you bringing the rest of the Crushers with you? And are they worthy of PGA Tour spots anymore? With some of the talent that we have coming up. So it's very complex now. And again, multiple things can be true at the same time. Where the entertainment value is through the roof. Golf's better with Bryson doing what he's doing right now. And again, he's in a position to do it. He's winning majors, so he's getting exemptions to future majors. So as long as he keeps that kind of rotation rolling, he doesn't need to worry about playing live golf or PGA Tour golf. He's got enough money, and he's got the exemptions
right now.
You might see this kind of future model where these guys might outgrow, tour golf. What if all of a sudden Bryson gets, enough subscribers on his YouTube channel where he's like, fuck it, I'm a pro golfer and I do YouTube videos and I play in majors. Get at me. I mean, is that outside the realm of possibility of a future when you talk about the landscape and, what it takes to actually sustain a living and what makes these guys happy? These guys, you get to a certain point, it's about the majors. That's all they give a shit about. I mean, it's not that they don't enjoy competition or he doesn't want to go shoot 59 or 58, 59, whatever he shot at the Greenbrier after a 61 the day before. That's fun, but it doesn't make his socks roll up and down. Winning at Pinehurst #2, challenging himself, making a run at Augusta, nipping at the heels of the world's best. So if there's only 2 or 3 dozen of those guys, they might not even be on tour at all. This good thing that teed off at French Lick today, it's kind of interesting. The Barstool Classics, they get a little more attention. Those are less of that elite golf and much more of the everyman golf. But all of a sudden, Barstool already sponsors a Corn Ferry Tour event. What if Barstool just says, like, wait a minute, we have all the infrastructure here. Let's do the Barstool Open. And like, instead of, the foreplay thing, the whole landscape's changing. And so a guy like Bryson DeChambeau, while entertaining and fun, I don't think is an example. And I'm not saying you were suggesting this, but there are folks saying like, this is a perfect reason why. He's not the perfect reason why anything. I think the recipe, the PGA Tour still has a pretty good recipe, and they're making wonderful changes with how they do the PGA Tour U system, where that top guy automatically goes. Everybody, the next 10 are going to the Corn Ferry, and then from there on out, they go down. People don't realize they go down like 50 spots in those rankings, and they give exemptions on the DP World Tour, other global tours, status on these tours. So the PGA Tours is doing a wonderful job of keeping their stuff at home. And while these guys are going to be able to do NIL deals and make money on YouTube videos, I think LIV is going to die, pun intended. I think that this investment coming from the PIF, part of the agreement with that is going to be like, yeah, we're not going to kill LIV. We're just not going to keep pumping money the way we have. If they want to sustain themselves, they can. And that's when Greg Norman's going to really be up the creek, because the checks that have already been written for the top tier talent, those guys are not going to renew. And then it's going to be like, well, we're kind of screwed. So LIV is going to go back to, again, watch it be an Australian kind of thing, or a fall series. And then golf's going to go back to being normal. The PGA Tour is going to evolve. It's going to have a different structure and format. It's going to have more money, and its partner in, the TGL offseason kind of team thing is going to continue to grow as well. But in the meantime, the Travelers, do you want to I mean, I don't necessarily want to give 9 because I didn't give it enough time. I just think that if you have 9, you can give 9. I labeled 9, but it's nobody shocking. My
9's not very shocking either, honestly. It's all pretty top heavy this week.
The only thing, and the funny thing is I don't have him in my 9. We'll tweet out the 9s. I mean, I've got Xander, Scotty, Colin Morikawa. So the Travelers, I think it's doing a disservice having a signature event right after. This is our resident New England golf event, but I think Scotty's going to win. I think we're going to see Scotty win again. But I have guys like Russell Henley that I have my eye on because he made a run on Saturday at the U.S. Open. But what do you think? Who's winning this week?
Winning this week, picking a winner that, you know what, screw it. I'm going to go Xander to win this week. I think he's going to get another one. I think he's going to get another one here, so I'll take Xander here. I do have Keegan Bradley. He's number 9, the defending champ. He's still actually playing fairly good golf right now, so I like Keegan Bradley here again. Someone who's making somewhat of a rare appearance in my 9 this year so far is Sam Burns. I'm going to take a chance on him, even though he's been wildly inconsistent this year. But yeah, other than that,
he's impressive.
Yeah, so I like he is. So I'll throw him in there this week. Other than that, it's a lot of the same guys: Corey Connors, Hideki Matsuyama, Sepp Straka, Ludwig Aubert, Scotty Scheffler, Xander, and Colin kind of rounds out my 9 for you there. So that's a quick 9. The stats I was looking at was approach putting off the tee as always. Then I was also looking at strokes gained, short game, and par force 400 to 450 because that's like 75% of the course this week. So that's where I landed in it, and yeah, There's not much too crazy to this. I'll be curious to see, since now we had, like you said, signature, major, and now another signature. I kind of want to see how the guys are carrying themselves around the course this week. Obviously, there's still like there's no cut. And there's no cut. So like
I wonder how many fucks were lost in transit by the time they actually tee off, because you can see there is no O2 barbecue. You can't check out early. I wouldn't be shocked if we see some weekend WDs where it's like, all right, I'm out. I don't even want this check. I don't want this 50 grand or this 200 grand that's going to come in. It's not worth it.
I'm not sure there's going to be a ton of motivation this week.
I got to say, looking forward at the next few weeks on the PGA Tour, there's not a whole. This is where we get into that lull in the schedule. Next week, Rocket Mortgage Classic. We are supposed to see the 15-year-old Miles Russell. He's going to get his first start We got the John Deere Classic coming after that, 4th of July week. Shout out to the JD Classic because that's an Open Championship series. So we got the John Deere Classic, and then we got the Genesis Scottish Open, followed by, you got it, the Open Championship. So it's, and don't get tripped up. The Barracuda is being played the same week as the Open. We're going to talk about the Open, not the Barracuda that week. And then next thing you know, we'll have Olympic golf and then the FedEx playoffs. Last question to you, and then we got to wrap this up, I'm sure. Bryson DeChambeau not on the USA Olympic team. Big deal?
It's I don't think it's a big deal because I don't think enough people care about Olympic golf right now. It's where I am with it.
Fair.
And he accepts it in his comments, so it's just what it is. But we will.
I don't think he cares now. I think when he watches it in the form that he's in, Bryson's going to put on his vision wall, LA 2028. I think that's what he's going to say. He wants to win a gold medal in front of a home crowd at Riviera.
And at that point, all the things will probably be aligned where he's going to be able to be on that team. So we'll land it there. Travelers down in Cromwell, Connecticut this week. The U.S. Open wrapped up this past week. I'm Andrew LeDuc. This is Bud Copeland, and I'm tired, so keep it classy, friends, and have a good night.